International Monetary Fund predicts growth in sub-Saharan Africa indicates 3.1% increase in 2018. World Bank launches first human capital index. Now, Nigeria wants investors to key into the economic recovery and growth plan. Plus, how can Nigerians in diaspora facilitate the ERGP? Find out in our discussion segment as we welcome you to this edition of Business Express, coming to you on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA. Also lined up for you are the usual segments. Stay tuned for this bumper package. I am Amina Nushain. The Central Bank of Nigeria revoked the operating license of Skybank in September for failing to meet the capital and liquidity requirements. Polaris Bank was subsequently approved as a bridge bank to take on the assets and liabilities of Skybank. President of Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria, AMCON, Ahmed Kuru, says the agency has met with the management of Polaris Bank and will sell the financial institution in less than 2 years. Kuru says the intervention in the Skybank issue was due to a lot of systematic issues, including saving more than 5,000 jobs and almost 1 trillion naira in deposits. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, says growth in sub-Saharan Africa is expected to increase from 2.7% in 2017 to 3.1% in 2018. Now, this is reflecting domestic policy adjustment and a supportive external environment. IMF's Director for Africa, Abebe Lasesi, while presenting the outlook in Bali, said though Africa's GDP growth is rising, more still needs to be done to solidify a fragile recovery and prepare for major disruptions in the global economy.
Sub-Saharan Africa has 3 major nations whose economies shape the continent's outlook. Nigeria, South Africa and Angola, all commodity exporters. Despite recent improvement in outlook, growth is expected to only accelerate to about 4%, a figure too low to create the needed jobs to accommodate the rising number of new entrants. This has given rise to concerns on the quality of fiscal adjustments on the continent and underlying vulnerabilities.
Most notably, the level of public debt in sub-Saharan Africa has gone up by about 20 percentage points and is now at around 57% of GDP. This 20 percentage point increase has happened over the last 5 years.
Cross-border capital flows to sub-Saharan Africa have increased in recent time, and the current wave of technological advances is set to shake up the landscape for jobs across the world. The IMF is concerned that over 20 million jobs are needed annually over the next 2 decades in sub-Saharan Africa to absorb its growing workforce and improve the quality of life.
Technology also allows our countries to leapfrog some industries, as we've seen, for example, in the case of the financial sector with the adoption of mobile technology.
The fund says development strategies by governments must adapt to the demands and prospects of the 4th industrial revolution, and the time to start is now.
In another development, the World Bank has launched its first Human Capital Index, a new tool to help countries make investments in their people. Lia Katung Babatunde in Bali, where it was launched, reports that the president of the World Bank, Jim Yong Kim, admitted that the bank earlier erred when it encouraged countries like Nigeria to invest in infrastructure rather than people.
New World Bank research gives policymakers compelling evidence that delivering better outcomes in children's health and learning can significantly boost the incomes of people and of countries with returns far into the future. The Human Capital Index, which was launched at the World Bank IMF annual meetings, showed that 56% of children born today across the world will lose more than half their potential lifetime earnings because governments are not currently making effective investments in their people to ensure a healthy, educated, and resilient population ready for the workplace of the future.
Let me put it this way. I think that there is that the World Bank has to take some responsibility for having emphasized hard infrastructure.
Nigeria ranks 152 out of 157 countries in the Human Capital Index. And the World Bank states that policies to build human capital are some of the smartest investments that countries can make to boost long-term inclusive economic growth. IMF's Christine Lagarde believes that with the right policy mix, inclusive growth can be achieved. She has these words of advice for Nigeria's Finance Minister, Zainab Ahmed.
I'm delighted that Nigeria has appointed yet again a female finance minister. And I welcome the meeting that I will have with her. But if she was to ask me what is our policy recommendation, I would certainly start with a tight monetary policy, higher non-oil revenue mobilization.
Madame Lagarde says policymakers must work to ease trade tensions and ensure currency sanitation. But above all, the need for a stronger global approach to inclusive growth is important to fix the general financial system. From Bali, I'm Leah Kating-Babatunde, NTA News.
We are not yet done with Bali. Nigeria is once again telling investors to key into the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan ERGP as global economic managers converge to brainstorm on how to grow economy. Minister of Budget and National Planning Udoma Udoma, who was at the Africa Regional Economic Outlook panel in Bali, says Nigeria's development has a significant effect over the whole sub-Saharan Africa. Leah Katung-Babatunde again reports.
The federal government had projected to grow the economy by more than 3% this year from 0.8% in 2017. But that was not to be, as oil production declined and reduced agricultural produce occasioned by security and climate change issues made the government revise its forecast to 2.1%, though the IMF is lower at 1.9%. Minister of Budget and National Planning Udoma Udoma is in Bali with a mission to attract foreign portfolio investors through the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, ERGP, the government's medium-term plan.
IMF projects that we need 20 million jobs annually over the next decade. In Nigeria, jobs has also been a key focus. And in the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, we target to create about 15 million jobs by 2020.
He said the plan is working and government aims to use it in bringing down inflation to single-digit region, ensuring stable exchange rates, maintain healthy foreign reserves, shrink deficit and improve gross domestic product. Minister Udoma is telling investors the Nigerian government will give them a fair deal when they come in.
Our aim is to make Nigeria a more investment-friendly place, a more attractive place for people to do business. One of the initiatives that we did, we conducted sector-specific labs.
He agrees with the IMF that Nigeria needs to put in place sound macroeconomic policy management to mitigate the risk associated with volatile capital flows. From Nusa Dua, Bali, Leah Katung-Babatunde, NTA News.
We are now being joined by Isaac Inyang to discuss the role of Nigerians in diaspora in the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan. Mr. Inyang, who is based in the United States, is a global accounting, business development and project management expert in international trade. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me here today.
Right, let's start talking about the ERGP. What do you make of it?
I think it's a very good idea. I will remember during the time of President Olusegun Obasanjo, when I personally was involved in moving a lot of business attraction into Nigeria, whereby I hosted His Excellency El Rufai and a couple of ministers in New York, where we did showcase Nigeria. I think it's a very great idea to attract business into Nigeria.
Now you're talking about showcasing the idea. Nigeria is presenting this idea to the global community.
Yes.
As a diaspora, what role should the diaspora play in facilitating the economic recovery and growth plan?
The diaspora has a very big role to play in the recovery of any nation, not only Nigeria. You take the case of China, you take the case of India's, diaspora has a big role. And Nigeria is blessed with such a massive resources that they can tap into in order to help in developing the economy of Nigeria. Take on any global sector in the world, you will find Nigeria to be on the top as a member, as a diaspora, playing an important role in any sector that you may pick.
Roles like what?
Roles like if you go into business, you have Nigerians. You go into corporate America, you have Nigerians who are corporate gurus like me. You go into pharmaceutical, you go into medical, you have one of the best doctors in the world are from Nigeria. So you have Nigerians in every sector, education, health, name it. You have all Nigerians. We have the resources.
Right. Nigerians in diaspora have these resources. How can Nigeria carry you along? Well,
the challenge is the politics and the policy has made it impossible for the government to be able to attract the diaspora. I remember I was one of those people that were attracted by the policy of the past president, Olusegun Obasanjo. I came into this country for 10 years in order to help in building up the economy, attract a lot of business, including Nitel, Zikem, pharmaceutical. I was the major player in those things. Amakwe Refinery, those are some of the diaspora projects. And I think the diaspora has a role to play in this economy.
Okay, now you seem to be actively involved in the economy of Nigeria already.
Yes.
Do you think more diasporans outside are aware of their expectations on the role they should play in working towards improving the Nigerian economy?
As the Vice Chairman of Nigerian Diaspora USA and a member of the Board of Directors, Nigeria in Diaspora Americans, I will tell you the door is open. We are waiting for the government to invite us. You not only invite us, they have to provide an enable environment that will give us comfort so that we do not come in and face the challenges that people like us have faced and exit.
In the spirit of patriotism, should Nigerians in diaspora be waiting for invitation, or should they come in by themselves?
Nigeria has a very unique environment.
Okay.
It is very difficult for you to come out from the diaspora to break into the system if you do not have the government support. You need the government infrastructure and policies. Okay. For example, the Nigeria in Diaspora Commission that has just been enacted into law might be a good forum to be able to give the Nigerian diaspora the platform to be reassured that Nigeria is moving towards the right direction.
Now, how optimistic are you about the role of the diaspora in improving Nigeria's economy? Plus, how can you practically be involved?
One, I will first say I have great hope as the Vice Chairman of the Nigerian Diaspora that Nigerians are ready to come back home if they are given the opportunity. I am ready. I believe that. Secondly, people like us that came in and went back 2015. I remember when I got here, I left Nigeria 2015 with only $100. And it took me, I was here for 10 years, left here with $100. And back in the US, it took me only 6 months to be able to recover what I lost in 10 years. So you can see the challenge here, that you sacrifice for 10 years and leave your country very, very like with the level of poverty in the US and going back to the US. So the government has to be serious that they want the diaspora to come in and help them, just like in China, just like in India. So we are ready to come back home to help if they open the door for us to come in.
Now, with that line of thinking, how would you assess the efforts of the current administration in addressing some of these challenges that you're talking about?
Well, I'll give credit to the Vice President, who has really stepped up in terms of his support to attract business into Nigeria, which is his primary role as a Vice President. He has done a lot, but I think much needs to be done in the sense that I have seen a lot of him attracting business into Nigeria, but the bureaucracy and the process stall it, and people are running back. I'm
thinking the ERGP is part of all of that initiative that the current administration is working on to ease, again, some of these challenges.
Yes, yes, it's part of it, but I, as the vice chairman of the Nigerian diaspora, if you ask me, I have not really seen the impact of that. But from what I'm hearing, I've seen that he has gone many places attracting business into Nigeria, but people are still scared.
There is also the ease of doing business. That has some significant impact in the business environment. We have moved more than 20 places in the international community, and we are among the top 10 movers in developing economies.
Yes, absolutely. Nigeria can move to #1 if we choose to do that. The foreign investors, there's so much opportunity in Nigeria. If you speak to the foreign investors, the numbers in Nigeria alone, China, people go to China because of the numbers. Nigeria has a very high population and the market is there. So I think looking at those things, I think Nigeria has a potential.
Okay. The World Bank just launched the Human Capital Index and its impacts. So in countries like Nigeria, even though it focused on education and health, what would you think the impact would be?
Well, I will still go back to that education and health.
Okay.
Because, you see, if you do not put your education and health in place, if you still put your education and health based on subsidy from the foreign international community without reinvesting in your own system, it will crash. For example, the prices of oil has gone above $80 now. I expect that the federal government to use some of this excess money to put it in the infrastructure of education and also the health. It is time for us to stop going abroad for treatment. We have the resources, we have the talent. Build the infrastructure, build the power, so that the people of Nigeria will be able to enjoy the resources of Nigeria.
It's been a pleasure having you, Mr. Isaac Inyang, on Business Express. Thank you for joining us today on the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, this is Business Express coming to you live on the network service of the NTA. You can contribute to the program via our website, businessexpress@nta.gov.ng. You can also reach us through our Twitter handle, NTA News Now. Don't forget to use the hashtag BizX showing on your screen now. Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency has barred international oil firms from enjoying waivers under the cabotage regime. Director General Nimasa Dakuku Peter Side, who disclosed this at a meeting with the oil producers' trade sectors in Lagos, said the agency would no longer encourage the application of any form of waiver under the Cabotage Act, particularly from the oil firm operators. Peter Side therefore urged industry players to draw up a 5-year strategic plan for the cessation of application for cabotage waiver and also pursue the utilization of Nigerian-owned vessels for maritime contracts. Nigeria's cabotage law requires that vessels be manned by Nigerians or have waivers to carry on trade along the Nigerian coast. Peter Side urged the international oil companies to support Nemasa's bid to ensure full implementation of the acts. The Food and Agricultural Organization says world food prices slipped last month, with only sugar posting a rise. FAO Food Price Index, which measures monthly changes for a basket of cereal, oilseeds, dairy products, meat, sugar, averaged 165.4 points last month. The FAO Food Price Index declined 1.4% from August and is now 7.4% below its level during September of 2007. The FAO's Cereal Price Index dropped 2.8%, led by maize. FAO Vegetable Oil Price Index posted its 8th consecutive month decline, dipping 2.3% to a 3-year low. Palm oil prices registered the sharpest decline as large inventories in major exporting countries weighed on oil quotations, which are now 25% below their level a year ago. Now, still talking commodities, gold posts biggest gain since 2016 on equities route. Let's take a look at price movement of gold and other items in the commodity markets. Trading on the Nigerian Stock Exchange ended positive today, Friday, the 12th of October, gaining for the second straight day. The OSHA index gained 0.12% to close at 32,456.98, while market capitalization stood at 11.8 trillion naira. Developments in the markets across the globe remain mixed. Bosede Abel has a summary.
Africa stocks were slightly mixed Thursday. Ghana's GSA Composite Index appreciated 0.13%, while Namibia Overall Index fell 1.90%, Tunisia's Tunidex 0.78%, Kenya's Nairobi All Share 1.34%, and South Africa's JSA Africa Top 40 also lost 1.23%. Asia market fell sharply, with the stock indices in Shanghai and Shenzhen both tumbling more than 5%. Nikkei depreciated 3.89%. Shanghai Composite Index 5.22%, and Hang Seng Index also fell by 3.54%. In Europe, a dramatic sell-off on Wall Street in the previous session had prompted the European benchmark to fall to its lowest level in more than 21 months before it recovered slightly. DAX depreciated 1.48%, FTSE 100 1.94%, and CAC 40 also dropped 1.92%. Stocks in the United States fell sharply in volatile trading on Thursday as investors dumped riskier assets in favor of traditional safe havens like bonds. The Dow Jones Industrial Average traded about 300 points lower, bringing its 2 days losses to more than 1,100 points. Dow declined 2.13%, S&P 500 2.06%, and Nasdaq Composite Index also depreciated 1.25%.
Time now for a look at how the Naira is exchanging for some major currencies. Now that's a wrap on Friday's edition of Business Express. Let's do it again on Monday. I am Amina Nujaim. See you next Monday.